Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
I'm telling you straight, it's my way or the highway.
Oh, command me, Lord. Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it.
I'll have what she's having.
You have chosen wisely.
It reminds us of all that once was good. And it could be again.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
You're listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. Classic movies, 30 years in the making. Hello and welcome to the 30-something Movie Podcast. Thank you for joining us once again. We are in week 2 of our Tom Hanks movie marathon. I don't know, when you have 2 movies, can you call it a marathon?
Sure.
Or is it more like a 100-meter dash?
None of us will ever be accused of 100-meter dashing anything.
Well, that's also true.
Patrick, maybe.
Okay. Well, we are week 2 of our Tom Hanks movie marathon. Last week we did The Burbs, and this week we've got Turner and Hooch. So thank you for joining us. If you have not listened to our podcast before, if you want to go back and listen to The Burbs, that was last week, and feel free to go back and find that on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
I can't wait to go back and listen to that one right now.
Right? It was amazing. Maybe one of the best ones we've ever done.
Well, it's a strange movie.
Mm-hmm. It's quirky,
but so good.
It's definitely Joe Dante.
Yes, very much so.
I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Yep.
But if you have not listened to our podcast before, the premise of our podcast is that we take whatever year we're currently in and we jump back 30 years. So we are currently in 1989, and all of our movies so far this year have been 1989 movies hitting their 30th anniversary. So that's what we're all about. Very quickly, we've got a little bit of new movie news that we want to talk about, but just very fast, we do spoil movies we talk about. So if you start to hear us talk about a particular movie title and you don't want to hear anything about it, you may just want to skip ahead a little bit on your podcast listening app or whatever you use. Also, if you want to find more of our episodes, we are on all the different places where you can get your podcasts, but you can also just go to our website, 30podcast.com, and that will give you all of the episodes that we've had in the past, as well as Letterboxd. If you're on the Letterboxd website or app, that's another great way to find all of our past episodes in an easy, nice visual way of looking at our past episodes there. So leave us a review on iTunes as well. If you have not done that before, if you're listening, you enjoy the show, leave us a review on iTunes because that lets us know how we are doing and what you are enjoying. So tonight I have with me, most of the co-hosts are here tonight, and I think Dennis may be on his way in a little bit if he's able to make it. But I do have with me tonight Jeff. Jeff, how you doing?
You know what? I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
All right. Yeah. Good. Bo, how are you doing?
Just fine. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And Patrick?
Hey, man. All good.
All good. All good in the hood. All right. So, like I said, Dennis may be joining us here in just a little bit, but if not, then I'm sure we'll get him back here next time, especially if we happen to bring food. So, he loves the food. So, very, very quickly, before we jump into talking Turner and Hooch, we have maybe just like one or two things that were on the movie news radar. So, real quick, I think, Jeff, you had mentioned that there's a Sandlot TV show coming out.
Yeah, I haven't had much time to research this and see what it's all about. But what I was able to piece together is the director of the movie has an idea for a scripted series. So he wants to reunite the original cast and have the movie take place like 20 some years later. So right in the mid 80s. I'm assuming that this means that the show would revolve around their kids, or something to do with their. I'm not quite sure. He didn't really, again, from what I've been able to read, he hasn't really let on too much of the idea. So I don't know how much of a story there would be about their kids, but yeah, what do I know? Yeah. I don't work in Hollywood.
True. Yeah, that seems kind of interesting. I mean, I know I thought I remember hearing a while back about a remake of The Sandlot.
And
but then I guess they decided to go the route of the TV series. Yeah.
Which I haven't seen.
I haven't either. So and I don't know that I need to go see it, but so I guess this could be interesting. It could be kind of a, if they decide to, we were talking before we started recording, if they decide to take it in almost kind of like a Wonder Years type route. But I don't know. I don't know. Would it be, I don't know if they think of it as being a comedy or, would it be more of like a family drama kind of thing? So I guess a couple different ways they could take it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So, okay. All right. One thing, there's not really any news out. There was a photo that was tweeted out a little while ago, but I gotta say, I'm kind of getting ready for some news on Star Wars. Like, I would like to see a trailer very soon.
Yeah, when does that come out?
It comes out this December.
Oh, wait, what? Oh, December.
Yeah.
What month is it now?
It's currently March.
Oh, so we still have summer. Oh,
we got some time. Yeah, but typically in the past they've put a trailer out about a year or so before the movie comes out.
I'm looking up right now because I remember something about new guidelines being in place for movie trailers, and that you had to wait a certain amount of months before the movie came out before you could release a trailer, and it had to be within a certain time frame.
Okay.
Okay.
What would the enforcement of that be?
The MPAA.
You just get fined if you bring it out too early.
I guess.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
I don't know exactly what you find interesting, Bo, but I too find that interesting that that's kind of a law or a rule or a...
Yeah, like what I get, yeah, they fine you, but what's the reasoning? I don't know. There's so much to unpack there. I don't even know where to start.
From what I remember, unless I'm totally making this up, and I don't think I am, it had to do with oversaturation before a movie came out, and movie trailers, because they were starting to get longer and longer, just giving too much away in the trailer. So it was a way that they were trying to cut back on movie audiences being almost fatigued by a movie before it's even out, and trying to keep their interest by not having too much of the movie revealed before it's out.
You mean movies shouldn't give you a 6-minute preview during halftime of the Super Bowl?
Probably not.
No? Okay.
So this is going to show my ignorance. One of the many.
Well,
the MPAA, is that made up of the movie houses, the movie studios, or is that like a separate governing body?
That is a very good question.
Because I just find that interesting that they're the ones.
I think it's them.
Okay, so I could see that, like, if they're all like getting together and just saying, okay, well, the majority of us want, we don't want the one guy to go out there and be like, making all these, we kind of, where we go one, we go all. So like, like that kind of thing. But I just find this whole thing interesting.
So you're asking who the MPAA is?
Yeah, is it the movie studios, kind of the de facto movie studios saying, okay, we're all agreeing to limit trailers, or is it like a separate governing body that somehow has the power to fine the studios make this call?
Yeah, I believe that it's kind of a mixture of the major movie studios. And it is, I'm trying to remember if they have kind of a mixture of a parent committee for the ratings system, things like that. And actually here, I popped up their website real quick because I knew it would have a quick description of it. It says the history of the MPAA is in 1922. Motion picture studios formed the organization now known as the Motion Picture Association of America to protect and support the nascent film industry. Since that time, the MPAA has served as the voice and advocate of the film and television industry around the world, advancing the business and art of storytelling, protecting the creative and artistic freedoms of storytellers, and bringing entertainment and inspiration to audiences worldwide. And when you look on their website, they list their members as being Disney, Netflix, Paramount, Sony, 20th Century Fox, Universal, and Warner Brothers. But I know for the rating system, they do have kind of a panel or a committee of, I believe, I remember reading this at one point in time, that They have like parents, and they might even have some students or people of different ages that kind of help determine what the rating system is based on their criteria. But yeah, those are the studios that are members of the MPAA.
Have you ever seen it was a documentary called This Film Is Not Yet Rated?
No.
And it kind of tried to like dive into the workings of the MPAA, which is very much like a secret society.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating.
Do they wear like red robes and
nobody knows? Like
chant Satan is our pal.
From what I remember in the documentary, like there was somebody like sitting in a car outside of the building trying to get pictures of whoever goes in and out, trying to determine like who all is part of the MPAA.
So it's like the Bourne Identity, just with movies and people that don't kill each other.
I find that very amusing.
That's kind of cool. Now I got to go see that now. What's it called? You said it's called This Movie's Not Yet Rated?
I think it's called This Movie's Not Yet Rated.
Okay.
I stumbled across it on Netflix years ago.
Okay. We'll have to take a look for it. All right. Well, I don't know that we have any other movie news at this point. I just wanted to make the comment about Star Wars because we're getting close, and I know we're like next month is, at the time of us recording this, next month is Star Wars Celebration, and I know sometimes they will make different announcements there, and I'm actually going to be there this year since it's in Chicago, so I'm kind of hoping they make an announcement while I'm there because that would be really fun. But that is coming up soon. So my thought is, if they haven't released a trailer yet for Christmas time or the Super Bowl or anything like that, then I kind of figure that if Star Wars Celebration is happening in April, the year before the last of the numbered Star Wars movies comes out, at least for now, I'm assuming, that maybe we'd get some kind of an announcement at Celebration. So that would be very cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Are you going to Celebration?
I am. I'm going, I think I'm going on the Friday. I think that was the only day when I was kind of looking at everything. That was the day I could afford. Because the Star Wars Celebration tickets are definitely much more than C2E2 tickets. One day at Celebration would be, because as an educator, we get a discount on the C2E2 tickets. So I can go to C2E2 for the entire weekend for $35. One day of Celebration, I think, was $90.
Oh, good. Wow.
So I'm going. I don't have any money to get anybody's autograph, but I will be there and I will see things, and I'm sure there'll be other stuff that I might purchase or take pictures of or whatever. But that was the one thing I always said, that if Celebration ever got anywhere close to Chicago again, because it was in Indianapolis, I think in 2003, 2004. And at the time I didn't go because I probably didn't have any money. I was in college. And I always said that if it ever gets anywhere close to Chicago, and if I ever get the opportunity to go somewhere where Mark Hamill is going to be, like, I don't need a lot of celebrity autographs. I'm not necessarily interested. I never got Stan Lee's autograph when he came to C2E2. Never did any of those, but I always said, you know what, Mark Hamill, if I get a chance, I'm going to go get his. And then I looked up what his autograph costs. And I'm not doing it. It was something like, I think it was last year's prices at some show he was at. It was like $275.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll take the 2 tweets that I've tweeted that Mark Hamill has retweeted, and I'll frame those, and I'll just think of those as being an autograph.
There you go.
It's pretty much the same thing.
It's the same thing. So, okay, before we go any further, we need to talk about This Week in 89. So we're looking at March 13th through 19th, 1989. On March 13th, Tim Berners-Lee produces the proposal document that becomes the blueprint for the World Wide Web. On March 17th, Merritt Buttrick, the American actor who was in Star Trek 2 and 3, who played David, he died on March 17th, 1989. The top book was Star by Danielle Steele. The top movie was Lean on Me, directed by John G. Avildsen, starring Robert Guillaume and Morgan Freeman. The top song was Lost in Your Eyes by Debbie Gibson. All right. Well, I think at this point we're going to jump on into Turner and Hooch. So are we ready to talk about dogs?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Turner and Hooch was released on the 28th of July, 1989, rated PG, with a runtime of 1 hour, 37 minutes, directed by Roger Spottiswoode, who did 48 Hours and The Sixth Day, and I'm assuming a bunch of other movies that have numbers in them. Produced by Raymond Wagner, who died in 2014. He did Code of Silence and Rent-A-Cop. Writers on this one, a bunch of writers. Dennis Shriak did the story and screenplay, died in 2016. He also did Pale Rider. Michael Blodgett did story and screenplay, died in 2007, also did a movie called Rent-A-Cop. Daniel Petrie Jr. did the screenplay. He did Beverly Hills Cop. Jim Cash did the screenplay. He also died in 2007. Cash also wrote Top Gun. Jack Epps Jr. also did screenplay, and he did Dick Tracy. Cinematography by Adam Greenberg, who did Terminator, T2, and Ghost. Music by Charles Gross, who did Air America. Budget on this one was $21 million, box office $71.1 million. And in terms of reviews, we've got the Rotten Tomatoes critics give it a 54%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gives it a 51%, IMDb gives it a 61%, Letterboxd a 58%, and CinemaScore an A-. Starring Tom Hanks as Scott Turner. He was in Big and Forrest Gump. Mare Winningham as Emily Carson. She was in Philomena and St. Elmo's Fire. Craig T. Nelson was Chief Hyde. He was in The Incredibles and Poltergeist. Reginald Vell Johnson was David Sutton. He was in Die Hard and Family Matters. Scott Paulin was Zach Gregory. He was in Teen Wolf and The Right Stuff. J.C. Quinn, who died in 2004, was Walter Boyette. He was in The Abyss and The Prophecy. And John McIntyre, died in 1991, was Amos Reed. He was in the 1960s Psycho and The Rescuers cartoon. Here's the trailer. We'll be back in just a moment.
From Touchstone Pictures, Scott Turner led a neat and orderly life. Then he inherited Hooch.
No, stop!
Now his orderly life has become a disaster.
What are you doing to this dog? I'm just getting for a walk.
Tom Hanks is Turner.
Oh, that's it. I'm getting my gun.
And his new roommate is Hooch.
Don't need the car. Not the car.
Turner and Hooch.
We've known each other for a while now. Are you aware of your drooling problem?
Rated PG.
All right, so for this movie, is this one that you guys saw when it first came out, or is this something that you came to a little bit later?
I don't know if we saw it in the theater, but I'm pretty sure we rented it soon after it came out. I remember seeing it as a kid. It was a dog. How can you go wrong?
Yeah, this is one I remember seeing with the family. Again, I don't recall theater or home or whatever, but I remember watching it with my family and talking about it with my family and reactions. So, yeah. This was a family one.
Yeah, I don't remember when I first saw it. I know it wasn't in the theater, but probably caught it on cable or rented it.
So what are kind of the, like, overall, before we dive into the movie itself, overall, kind of what are first impressions of this movie? Is this something you've watched regularly? Is this like regular viewing for you over the years? Or is this something that, yeah, I saw it a couple times and I really only watched it recently for the podcast? What are kind of your first impressions of this movie, I guess?
It's one that you can kind of stumble upon on cable and channel surfing and, oh, okay, I'll stop here. There's nothing else on. I'm going to go ahead and watch it. It's not one I seek out on a regular basis, but it's fun.
Yeah, I agree with what Bo's saying. I mean, it is a fun movie. Boy, I don't know. I can't think of many other, man-dog movies before this one. And I think we talked, didn't K9 come out this year? 89?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, because I just remember there were two of them that came out. One had Jim Belushi, just growing up. But before this, I don't remember like the man-dog buddy movie. And yeah, I think it's fun. It's fun to see, his interaction with the dog. I don't see it regularly. I don't watch it like all the time. In fact, I maybe have only seen it like maybe a handful of times, but I remembered every single part of it. So it seems like it was one that I've seen a bunch, but I don't know if it's just because I saw it once and it stuck with me, or if I've seen it a lot while I was growing up. But I remember every little part of it. So
I don't necessarily know that I seek it out, but when I see it, like if I see it on Netflix, I'll add it to my queue and make sure I try to watch it. So I guess that's kind of seeking it out, but I don't think that I've ever sat there and thought, boy, you know what movie I could really go to watch right now? Turner and Hooch. So I'm somewhere in the middle of not hunting for it, but trying to watch it when I know it's available.
Yeah. Yeah, this was one I don't recall if we saw it in the theater growing up. I do know that we saw this a lot at home. I don't know if we taped a copy off of TV. I feel like we had a copy of this movie. I think it was probably one of those that we recorded off of TV and just had had a copy that we'd throw in regularly. But I remember watching this several times growing up, like not as like a once a year we got to put on Turner and Hooch kind of a thing, but I just remember several times watching this. And especially with when my sister and I were little, this would be one every once in a while we'd pop in as part of our rotation of movies. The ones I remember watching regularly would be like Turner and Hooch, Muppets Take Manhattan, Labyrinth, obviously Star Wars all the time, but it was in the rotation. I mean, it definitely was not, and I wouldn't say isn't, like a top movie of all time. It doesn't rank up there with me for the rest of those I just listed, but it was one I remember as a kid we would put on regularly and we watch with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Which I wasn't sure. I did look up real quick on like Common Sense Media kind of what rating they would give this movie. I know it's a PG, but it's also an 80s PG, which is a little different. And I did actually show this movie to the kids, so the entire family we watched this one. And for the most part, it was fine. Like the kids thought it was hilarious. The kids loved it. They loved the part where Hooch is tearing up his apartment, tearing up his house, and everything was pretty good up until the end. And
Right.
then you get to the end, and especially kind of the part that Nora reacted to was a lot of the shootout stuff. And especially when you do see, any time in the movie that, somebody got stabbed or anything like that. So if anybody's listening to this and they're thinking of watching it with their kids, just kind of be aware of that, is that you do see people get stabbed. You do see people get shot. It's not overly gory. You don't see a lot of blood, but there is one point at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, where we've already said that we'll spoil things, where Hooch gets shot and you actually see a little bit of a wound explosion, coming out of his body. So that part, she kind of curled up real fast and didn't want to look at the TV for a minute. So that, I think, it looks like a cute, fun movie with a cop and a dog. And that I would definitely caution, if you've got kids that are going to react strongly to something like that, just be aware that does happen. And
it was intense, and I remember it, and I think that's why I don't seek it out that much, because honestly, we already put the spoiler thing out there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just sad what happens to Hooch. I mean, I just
right.
to be honest, like that is a hard thing for me to get past, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna watch Turner and Hooch. Okay, I can do this. I I remember how it ends, and that, and it's interesting because it does get serious in a hurry, but it doesn't seem, for me, it doesn't seem like it's out of place. It's like it doesn't seem like a tale of two movies. Where, wait, what happened? This was a lighthearted, somewhat comedy. Why is it all of a sudden like super dark? It's like, no, these are bad guys, and this is what happened. I mean, it's I don't know. Did anyone else bump up against that, where it felt like the movie seemed like two different things, or did it kind of fit together nicely between the lighter elements and the darker elements?
I thought it was balanced pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it definitely has some adult, I don't want to say adult sections, but it has some heavier stuff than most movies starring a dog.
Yeah.
It does have some adult situations, but yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to explain to the kids what humping the vet was?
No.
Well, that's good.
I also want
I just chose to let that go.
Yeah.
Is that guy play a police officer in every single movie?
Yes, I think so.
Carl Winslow.
Winslow?
I know, but it's like everything. It's Die Hard. It's what was the show he was on?
Family Matters.
Yep.
Family Matters. Die Hard. This. It's all. He's always a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
There's some fan theory somewhere that draws a line between all his police roles. I haven't seen it, and I don't know if it's really out there, but I got a hunch it's out there somewhere.
Is it that it's always the same character?
Yep.
No. We've talked about, we kind of jumped to the end of the movie here. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and I had not read this before, is that they did actually do two different endings to the movie, and they screened two different endings to the movie at the same time. And they said that in an interview that Tom Hanks did, I want to say just maybe 10 or 15 years ago, he said that he thinks it's a mistake that Hooch was killed in the end.
I think so too.
That he actually lobbied for that at the time. He's like, yeah, we should, the dog should die. And now he's like, nah, I kind of wish I hadn't done that, because I feel like it would be a much more successful, much better movie if he didn't die. But then I read what they did was they screened this to the different audiences, and both of the audiences, whether Hooch lived or whether Hooch died, they both gave the same feedback, that it affected them. This, like, if they gave their reaction a number, they gave the exact same number. But they said that when they screened this and they interviewed the audience where Hooch died, people had a much stronger reaction. They both said, I enjoy the movie and I give the movie this score, and they both had the exact same numbers. But apparently the audience where Hooch died, they were much more passionate about kind of their response to the movie. And so they said, well, we get kind of the movie's great. Here's its score. Yeah, we love it from this side where he lives. But the side where he dies, it's like, well, he died, but there's puppies at the end, and he was a hero, and I give it this score, and it's a great movie. And so, what I guess would be your take on this? What's your take on Hooch dying at the end? Like, would you have gone back and changed that given the chance, or does it work just fine as it is?
I'm not sure it would be the right call for the movie, but I'd probably change it.
My question would be why? Why did Tom Hanks want Hooch to get it in the end? And then why did he want to change it back? Like, what was his motive? Like, I'm just curious what the motivation would be.
Yeah, I don't know if at the time, I don't know if he was part of those discussions when they had the audiences polled for what they thought of it all. I don't know if at the time he just felt like, well, we got a stronger reaction out of the people who, when he died. So let's go with that one, because it gets a stronger reaction, and maybe that gets us a stronger box office, or maybe people like this movie more because even though it's sad, there is, it's redeemed at the end because there's a puppy. And so that might have been, in what I saw, he didn't, it didn't have him going into detail as to why.
Yeah, see, because originally I thought of this as, oh, well, it's Turner and Hooch. Hooch is Turner's dog, and they fit together, and the sad and all that. Watching it this time, it was kind of like I knew what was coming at the end, so maybe that affected my judgment. But it almost, to me, added a symmetry to it, because now the dog is back with its owner. He was always Milo. What was the dog? Now I'm thinking of dogs. What was the guy's name?
Amos.
Yeah. Milo. That's another dog movie. Anyway, yeah. Amos gets it.
And you were close. Isn't that Milo and Otis?
It's Milo and Otis. Yeah. But like this time when I saw it, I'm like, wow, I don't remember feeling this before. But now, Amos dies, and Hooch always kind of had this sadness because of that. And it was like it was never like he was really truly Tom Hanks's dog in it. They were buddies, but it was like he was always trying to, he had this mission, he had this thing he had to accomplish. And he was not able to save his master, but he was able to save Tom Hanks. And so, like I said, to me, it just kind of added a little bit of a symmetry. Now, whether that was by design or by accident, I'm not sure. And that's why I'm wondering what Tom Hanks's thoughts were on switching it. But I never want to see it, any of the main characters, animal or human or otherwise, get killed. And I'm like the happy ending guy. But I think it I don't know, it just made it a very tragic, but very, I don't know, kind of a full circle movie.
Yeah.
I think there's something about the way that Hooch changed Tom Hanks's character. Because he was very type A. And I think being with Hooch, he had to learn to let go. So by the time you see at the end of the movie, the best tribute he could give to Hooch was to, raise a whole family of dogs. So I don't necessarily know that I would change the ending. I don't know that I would have Hooch live. I mean, I think that would be a little bit too on the nose for, or too predictable of an ending. I kind of like that they took the other side of it, and they almost had to learn to trust each other. Hooch had to learn to trust Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks had to learn to trust Hooch. Right? So I think that the ultimate act of the trust was that, Hooch fell on the sword for Turner.
Yeah.
So how do you repay that? Well, then you raise another family of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do like that, as you said, he starts off very type A and, starts to transform over the course of the movie. And you got the one part, he goes in the office and he's like, there's something different about you. You're not wearing a tie. I've never seen you not wear a tie before.
Mm-hmm.
And how he kind of quickly makes that transition from, now he's got this dog and things have changed very fast. It kind of reminded me, and I won't mention his name. I doubt he's listening, but one of our coworkers was very funny about, he'd always get to work really early at school and never understood why all these people with kids, couldn't get there to work early, and everybody always looks tired. And he was really funny about it because then he got a dog. And I don't know if some of you guys remember this, he got a dog, and I want to say like the first Monday after he got this dog, he comes in much later than he normally would. He doesn't look like he's shaved. His hair is a mess. He looks tired. He's like, oh man, I totally understand now. I'm like, well, I don't know if you totally understand, but at least maybe you have a better sense now of why people with children or dogs or other pets maybe deal with a little bit of stress and show up to work not quite as early as you do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love that whole scene of him going to the grocery store when he's having to buy everything and he has no idea what to buy. Any of those other times where you've got, if it's a movie where and I'm blanking out on what they would be off the top of my head, but movies where like somebody has to adopt a kid when they weren't expecting to, and they're like going to the store and like, well, what do kids need, and what are this and just that kind of that whole situation of not knowing, and they're looking at all these like little canned dog foods, and they're like, what kind of dog do you have? He's like, big dog, and he just grabs this massive bag of dog food and throws, oh, this is what you need, then don't mess with this other stuff over here. And we did look it up. I was curious because what is it, like $97.51 is what it cost him.
Yeah, I think he got away pretty cheap. Maybe there's a little inflation there, but
in today's money, it would be about $200 and some.
Yeah.
So we were curious, so we did look it up. But do you guys have a favorite scene in the movie? Like in terms of, I asked the kids this, I said what their favorite scene in the movie was. So they gave me their answers. So I'm just curious, is there a favorite scene in this movie or a favorite line or what stands out for you?
Well, I'm gonna jump right in because I remember this was my favorite scene as a kid. I like it when he gets in and the guy makes him drive the car, and he's like, seatbelt, and the guy laughs. You think seatbelt to keep you safe? And I'm a pretty notorious put your seatbelt on in my car type person. But I like it when he just takes off and drives right into the wall and throws the guy through the windshield. I thought that was cool when I saw this movie, and I was, I don't know how many years old. I think and I remembered that scene. And it was like, as they were getting to it, I'm like, oh yes, this is the scene. And I remember getting kind of confused look by my parents when I think I actually cheered the first time I saw the movie. I'm like, nice. But yeah, that was my favorite scene, hands down, is when he pushed the guy through the windshield. I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
I like when he's trying to just, a couple scenes. One is when he's trying to get to know Hooch, when they're doing the stakeout. And they're just sort of having a conversation with him, talking about like the drool issue. Mm-hmm. And but the other part that I really like is when he does the tour of the house with him, and he just said, "This is not your room."
Yes,
this is not your room.
There will be no howling, no sniffing of crotches, no, that whole,
Yeah.
all of his rules. And I like how that's how the movie ends, with him listing off the rules. Okay, I've told you before, and listing them off for Hooch Jr. or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I like that scene when he's on the stakeout, because, and I'm not saying anything against contemporary movies that use the CGI with animals, because I think what they do, like with Planet of the Apes, is awesome. But how cool is it that really, like, when he's going off, Hooch seems to be like reacting to him. And I'm sure they probably have someone right off camera somehow getting the reaction from the dog, but I think it's just the way they film the dog. But it seems like Hooch is like, oh God, this guy's going on. Oh man, I don't know. Hooch, you can see kind of, you're imagining what's going on in his head. And I'm sorry, Jeff, but that scene was another one I really liked, that stakeout. Tom Hanks on the, what was the one where Lost? Not Lost. What's the thing where he's that guy and he ends up on the island with Wilson?
Oh, Castaway.
Anybody that hasn't seen Castaway, here's your 5 seconds to mute. But when he's sitting there with Wilson, and I mean that's just like a ball, and he has all these conversations and all that. So I mean, maybe every actor can do this, and I just am ignorant of it. It's entirely possible. But Tom Hanks seems to really be able to pull a lot out of a scene when he, talking to an animal or talking to an inanimate object, or, it really, I don't know. I kind of drew a weird parallel when I saw that stakeout scene.
Yeah, he does. It's a really, I think it's a specialized gift that he has, or a specialized talent that he has, to be able to conduct a one-sided conversation so convincingly.
Yeah.
I don't think every actor has that in as one of their skills.
No, yeah.
But it's something that he does really well. It's like he has an understanding of the concept. He knows, or he understands what the scene is supposed to look like, how that scene fits into the bigger picture. So he really gets a lot of the smaller details and the reactions and the responses to whatever it is that he's trying to have a conversation with.
You know what? And it's like, think about Forrest Gump. I mean, sure, he's sitting there talking to a person on the park bench, but for half the time, if I remember right, he's just sitting there talking. It's not like the other person will give him a look or maybe say a line or two, but it's just kind of him talking. Yeah, but no, I really dug that stakeout scene. I thought that was cool.
I do too. I like all the moments where he's having one-on-one conversations with Hooch, just as if he's a human. And at one point he's having a conversation with it, and at one point he says something. He's like, "You," and he's telling him something. It's like, you had to see that. Oh, you can't see two-dimensionally. I forgot about that.
He's telling him about.
It was a TV show.
Yeah,
the TV show.
Oh, yeah. Chimpanzee 80s.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I can't think of what it was either.
Oh my God.
But I know. Yeah, that's the part. No, it'll come to you.
Yeah, I have to look it up now because
yeah.
Lancelot Link.
What's that?
Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp.
Yeah. That
was it.
Yeah, that, and I think my favorite scene in the movie might be the scene where, as he's out at the grocery store buying the stuff, Hooch is just destroying the house.
Oh yeah.
And definitely as a kid, that was my absolute favorite scene in the movie.
When we got our cats, I had like the exact same moment that he did, because the day that they were being dropped off at our house, we got them through a friend of ours. One of our friend's sisters had to give up her cats, so we took them in. And like the day came that they were coming, and we realized like we had nothing. Like we had no cat food, we had no litter box, we had no toys, we had nothing. So I was just like, well, I'm going to go to the pet store and start getting stuff. And I remember the girl at the store like asking me questions, what kind of cats are they? I was like, black and white. Like, what do they like to eat? I don't know.
Food.
How often?
I'm thinking they eat.
How often do they go to the bathroom? I don't know. Like I was so ill prepared and ended up spending so much money on toys and on food and litter boxes and litter and all sorts of things. I didn't know what we needed, so I just got a little bit of everything until we finally settled in with it, and we kind of figured out like, okay, so all this over here, this $50 I spent really wasn't necessary at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely relate to that part of the movie. And, really, if you think back to it, it's the same thing with Three Men and a Baby when Tom Selleck goes to the store to buy baby stuff.
Yes.
Like, how big is your baby? About this big.
That's what I was blanking out on. 3 Men and a Baby, when he goes to the grocery store and he's looking for the baby food. And that's exactly what that scene made me think of.
Yeah. Same sort of like, I'm way out of my element here. I don't know. So I'm just going to take one of these, some of these, a little bit of this. What's my total? $200? Ah, well.
Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah. And really, like any of those situations, what do you know to compare it to?
Right.
Like, never having had a pet before, I had no idea, like, is this a lot? Am I spending too much? It's 2 cats. Maybe not. Maybe I should be spending more since it's 2 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no
And now
point.
you know how many years later you probably didn't spend enough.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And it's one of those scenes, whether it's a baby or a pet or something, anybody can relate to that. And it really, I think, humanizes the people on screen. It gives it that little shot of realism, or maybe a big shot of realism when you see people going through that, because you can all relate on one level or another. You can relate to someone in that situation,
Yeah. Did I get everybody's favorite scene? Did everybody get a chance to mention one?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Well, what was yours? I'm sorry.
Well, it was the same as it was where he's walking around telling him, the tour around the house.
The tour around the house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just classic. I guess if I had to pick a different one, I think it's the first scene with Hooch, and not so much because of Hooch or Tom Hanks, but because of Reginald Vell Johnson in the background of that whole sequence. He's killing me. Like, he does the funniest part about him is he's all reaction shot the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hysterical. And he's always there to remind you about the fact that Hooch pinned him by the throat. He brings it up again an hour later.
Yeah.
I really like that the movie is about Turner and Hooch, and the police investigation and the case that they're working on it's really the B story.
Yeah, it's all secondary.
Yeah, this movie is about the effect of this dog on this man, and really the effect of the man on the dog as well, and the understanding and like I said, the trust that they end up building for each other, and how good they were for each other. They both needed each other to mellow themselves out and bring themselves down from their high intensity lifestyles.
Yeah. And good on Tom Hanks for being like the everyman. Like, sure, he was a police officer. There was a shootout. They were wrestling for the gun. But it wasn't like, an Arnold Schwarzenegger fight where there's a couple quippy lines and you know what's going to happen. Or, he did have flaws. He did have to grow as a person. But it wasn't like he suddenly, he still had his, okay, these are your rooms, these are my rooms thing at the end of the movie. I just think it was refreshing to watch a movie that did have some action elements with it. Even his comedy, and his physical comedy, it was something you could relate to. No slight against him, but if you look at like K-9 with Jim Belushi's going to always seem like a comedian that's like, okay, he's going for that humor angle. Whereas Tom Hanks, the comedy works because you can imagine that as something you'd be going through. Sort of like Steve Martin with Father of the Bride. The act, okay, the wrestling for the gun, the fights, all that. Okay, you've gone through that. Have you ever investigated a murder before? No, I haven't. Okay, well, everyone's watching. Let's look like we know what we're doing.
Let's not screw this up.
Yeah, everybody has felt that in their job. I mean, you know, I just really, I don't know. I was taken, and maybe because it's been so long since I've seen it, like I really enjoy watching Tom Hanks, the young Tom Hanks, and seeing these roles and seeing him in this role. I thought was pretty slick.
You know, to get back to the, you know, would you change the ending or not? I was just thinking about K9, and I'm glad that Hooch. This is going to sound awful. I'm glad that Hooch didn't live, because then it would have been exactly the same as K9.
True.
Because if I remember correctly, the dog in K9 lived. Jim Belushi thought that the dog had died or was dying, and then the vet was like, "What are you doing in the recovery room?"
Mm-hmm.
And the dog, and dog ended up living. So I'm glad that it wasn't just a copycat. I don't know which one came out first, but I'm glad they didn't copy each other completely.
Right.
Yeah, K9 came out at the end of April 1989, and this one came out in July. So K9 came first.
Okay.
Just by a couple months.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that they went there with Turner and Hooch. I'm glad they took that risk.
Now, one of the things that I did read that I thought was kind of interesting was apparently Henry Winkler, the Fonz, was directing this movie to begin with, and he was on the job for about 2 weeks, and apparently I think it was he and Tom Hanks, they say that it was the Disney executives did not care for his working style, but in some of the other stuff that I've read, it almost makes it sound like he and Tom Hanks clashed quite a bit as well. So I guess Henry Winkler only spent 2 weeks on this movie, and then he was fired. So I don't know how this movie would be different. Obviously, I looked up to see he really didn't direct too many motion pictures. He did several TV movies. He's done some episodes of TV shows. The only movies that I could find on his IMDb page that he had done was a movie called Memories of Me, starring Billy Crystal, and Cop and a Half with, is that Burt Reynolds? Yeah. So another cop movie, but I don't know that his movies are very highly rated, so I don't know what that
Very
was.
interesting thinking of those two not being able to get along.
Yeah.
It's an interesting pairing to have a fight.
You'd think Tom Hanks would get along with everybody, and you'd think the Fonz would get along with everybody, but apparently in real life, maybe not so much.
He asks each traveler 5 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
You've got to ask yourself one question.
What are you asking me for? I don't know.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
5 questions. I was trying to come up with some 5 questions for this movie, and so a couple of our questions may not necessarily be related to the movie at all. It may have the word dog in the question, but like as I always say, our 5 questions are maybe sometimes loosely related to the movie that we're talking about. So to start us off, question number 1, what is your favorite 80s Tom Hanks movie? And then after I wrote that question and sent it to you, I realized I could have also put in TV show as well. So what's your favorite 80s Tom Hanks role? Let's do it that way.
Pep Strebeck, Dragnet.
Okay.
I'll say Big.
Okay.
There, that's my answer. I think I'm gonna have to go with Big as well. Although Money Pit is great.
So good.
Stairs are out.
Burbs was great. This movie was great. The Man with One Red Shoe. I don't. You know what? No, I'm going to go with Big. Big is my answer.
Okay.
Lock it in. Final answer.
Final answer. You know what? For me, I think it's also Big. I did go a little bit back for all the ones that you listed. Money Pit, Turner and Hooch, all those are up there as well. The only one that I would have maybe also listed was I remember as a kid watching a bunch of reruns of Bosom Buddies. It just, I thought that show was hilarious. So that one, I almost thought about that one, but like, no, let's go full on movies and let's go big. So yeah, that's definitely mine too. I did look up real quick on his IMDb page. He was on an episode of Happy Days. So he apparently they worked together at some other point too. So
maybe there was some bad blood from Happy Days.
Could be. There's something left over from the 1982 episode that he was in that lasted a full 7 years before they made this movie. So, all right. Number 2, if you were going to get a dog, because I don't think none of us listening or none of us talking right now own dogs. If you were going to get a dog, what kind would you get? And maybe did you ever have one growing up?
We had a big old German Shepherd growing up.
Okay.
And he was the best. But I have to admit, I'm a sucker for that French Bulldog face.
Okay.
So I think if I was going looking for a dog, I would probably end up with a French Bulldog, or an English Bulldog. But any dog I end up with, I'm not going to go shopping for. It's going to be a fluke. So
sure.
There you go.
Somebody dies and you have to take it on, and it's part of a murder investigation.
Right. As much as I loved our dog when I was younger, and there's visual proof of that, I am not a dog person.
Mm-hmm.
Something about picking up the poop just doesn't work for me. I gotta be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I never had a dog, but I always wanted a dachshund.
Okay.
They just seem like so much fun.
I heard you have to squeeze them.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, it's kind of gross.
Are you? Yeah. Okay. So yes, you are saying what I think you're saying.
Yeah. I think like stuff can get stopped up inside of them because they're long little bodies, and I believe from a relative that had one time. I believe occasionally they need to be squeezed.
You know what?
That is inappropriate.
I've got some friends that have a dachshund. I'll have to ask them.
Okay, ask them and see. Maybe that's just a weird relative that I had, but I feel like that's something I've heard before.
Wow.
There are some breeds where you do need to help. Get
Yeah.
Wowza.
Yeah, that's what I thought I remembered, but I could be wrong, or maybe they just do weird things to their dog.
All right then.
Yeah. Pat, what about you?
Well, we had dogs growing up. My mom had dogs growing up. My dad, we did. I mean, they had a dog before I was born. My in-laws all have dogs. My folks had a dog. My sister. So there've been dogs in and out of the family. We never got one just because right now our lifestyle just doesn't support it. And partly just because it is a living creature. And the way we go right now, it would be one of those things where someone's got to get home, let the dog out. Okay, good. All right, let's get on with our life. And it's kind of like, my take is that especially a dog, now other pets are different. I think if you have a living creature in your house, you got to make sure you got the time to play with it, take time with it, take it for a walk. It just can't, it's not like other pets, not judging. But so that's kind of the reason that we don't have a dog. Then maybe that'll change in the future. But yeah, I liked having dogs growing up. I guess my favorite breed is what we ended with, and it's it's called a cockapoo, and it's a poodle cocker mix. And my gosh, those are just such friendly dogs, and they love playing outside and playing inside and running around, and so I would say that would be the dog if I got it again. And then the other one, and I can't pretend to be an expert on dog breeds, but I would love to get like anything that's like just a big leggy hound. Or something that could go out running.
Like a big old Great Dane or something?
Yeah, something like that, that just you could go out running with and all that. But I don't know, the way dogs run and the way humans run, it's pretty different. So, that might just be a pipe dream, but that might be
running with. To go running with, you mean to ride? which actually is kind of funny. There was a time, there's a kind of like a feed store up in one of the towns close to where we live here. Gray's Lake has this feed store where they've got like dog food and bird seed and all kinds of other stuff that you can buy there. And we would go there on occasion to get some bird seed because we have a lot of bird feeders around our house. And I remember taking John there one time when he was a little guy. He was maybe 4, maybe. And we go there, and people bring their dogs in all the time. So there's animals all over the place in this place. And we go there, and we're picking up some bird seed, and all of a sudden somebody walks in with a Great Dane. And I'm sure to a 4-year-old, this thing looked massive to me. And I'm sure to a 4-year-old, he's like, "Dad, somebody brought their horse in the store." And I said, "No, buddy, that's a dog." "No, it's not." "No,
That's
it's
awesome.
not." No, seriously, that is a dog. I promise you. You know what? We never had dogs growing up. My parents both had dogs growing up. I think my mom had a Cocker Spaniel when she was little. My mom had a pet turkey when she was little. I don't know how that worked, but
good Lord.
they lived in Missouri. That probably explains everything right there. My dad had a couple of different dogs, had a German Shepherd. That was always his favorite. Skipper was the German Shepherd. That was his favorite dog ever. But we never had them growing up. We moved a lot, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to have a dog because that wouldn't have been fair to the dog. And when I was little, I got chased by a pack of dogs in my neighborhood. And so I was terrified of dogs from a very young age up until almost age like maybe 11 or 12. I couldn't stand to be anywhere near a dog. And thankfully, I've gotten past that. But the only dog growing up that I would ever go anywhere near was my grandparents had, I think it had been my uncle's dog, and he maybe left it with them while he went to college or medical school. And it was a collie. And they kind of lived out in between a whole bunch of farms. They didn't have a farm themselves, but a lot of kind of farmland around them. And they had this collie. And I remember even when I was terrified of dogs, for some reason, that dog was exempt from my terror. So I loved that dog, would hang out with that dog all the time. If I was to get one today, I absolutely love beagles. So I would totally get a beagle. Now, I have been told by my lovely wife, who's upstairs and is probably listening and may text me here any moment, that beagles have a bit of a loud voice.
Mm-hmm.
In all of the books I've ever read, they do phrase it as harmonious. And so that's the argument I try to bring up every now and then, is that they have harmonious voices.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently that doesn't work. So she would like a Scotty dog. So we did find the other day that there is a breed where they mix them and they call them Skeagles. Which I don't know how I feel. I mean, I've seen a picture and they're really cute, but it also makes me think of Smeagol.
Yes.
And I don't really want a dog that's like sitting in the corner looking at me and just like wringing its paws together going, "My precious."
John,
Not
there's a 20% chance any pet of yours is going to do that anyway.
Well, I know. So
you really think that just because of the breed, there's going to be a change here?
No, my luck is I'd get the one that would do that.
Yeah.
But
and it would serve you right.
Well, probably. But the reason we don't have anything other than fish is the same as you, Pat. It's just kind of like the way life is. It wouldn't be fair to a dog. We like to just get up and go whenever we feel like getting up and going. And if it's, hey, it's a Saturday, we don't have anything going on, let's go up to Wisconsin or let's go do this. Right. And it's kind of like when that's what you enjoy doing and being able to, have little day trips here and there to different places. It kind of seems like it'd be unfair to an animal to do any of that. So that's kind of why we don't have one right now. But yeah.
The first time, and it was funny because various members of both halves of our families, I was like, "When are you guys getting a dog? When are you guys getting a dog? Are you guys getting a dog? Oh, they're great with kids. You need a dog." Like everybody just wants to tell you how much you need a dog.
Right.
And we were getting it from both halves of the family. And we had that first bout of, someone got the stomach flu. This was a couple of years ago and brought it home. And so then everyone had the stomach flu, and it always hits, it's like, and I'll tell you, this is the perfect line when things are kind of going downhill in the household. And I mean, it was like, and I hope Tammy doesn't mind me telling the story, but we were both doubled up. The kids were, it was just like sick calls had been had, and it was just like laying down, contemplating life, it was like the scene, it's like when you were in college going, "Dear God, if I survive this, I'll never drink again," like that. But it wasn't. And I remember looking over at Tammy, and we're both just sitting there in the bed, and I said, "Let's get a puppy." And we both start
Good
laughing,
grief.
which then upset everything again. And so, like so just put that line in there. The next time, whatever is going downhill, whether it's a baby or things at work or there's just go. I think we need a puppy.
Let's get a puppy.
Yeah, it's pretty classic.
All right, question 3. What is the best pet you've ever had?
Well, for me, it's got to be my buddy, my Luke.
Okay.
He's the first boy cat I've ever had. And it's so funny. He's a little like a dog. He plays fetch. He sits next to you on the couch. It's hysterical. So he's my best.
Yeah, we had my mother-in-law had 2 cat. Well, at different times she had a total of 3 cats, but she had 2 simultaneously, and one was Murray, and Murray was very much like a dog.
Cool. Would that be your answer there?
You know, that was never our pet. I mean, there were several times that we helped kind of take care of it because, you know, there were different times where she struggled to kind of take care of it in different ways, like clipping its nails and stuff like that, giving you medicine when it needed medicine and things like that. And then I was, because nobody else was comfortable doing it when Murray had to be put to sleep, I went with him and I was with him when he was put to sleep. And I'll tell you, I've been around both humans and now animals ending their lives, and I was not prepared for what that was.
Man.
I was not prepared because I sat there with him, and it was, you know, it's not even my pet, but I was not prepared for what that was going to do to me. So yeah, I might say that, even though that wasn't technically our pet. The answer I wrote down was we had a goldfish that ended up living about 14 years.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we actually got him when we first moved here. We came to a carnival. It might have been Libertyville Days that they do every summer. And that was when we first moved here. And as a prize for some game that we played at the carnival, we got 2 goldfish. And so we got Greedo, and I think the other one's name was George. And Greedo, well, just because of Greedo from Star Wars, but and George, I want to say George lasted like 8 years. And really, they just lived in this little like round goldfish bowl. We didn't do anything special to them. We just, you know, they lived in the bowl and they got fed every now and then, and they just swam in circles all the time. And George lived about, I want to say like 8 years, 7 or 8 years. I want to say Greedo got a total of about 13 or 14 years. And they were carnival goldfish, and we must have moved houses maybe 3 times, 4 times. Goldfish made the move every time. When George died, you know, Greedo had the bowl to himself, so he started getting a little bit bigger, and you know, so he was our family pet. You know, obviously you can't take him for walks and stuff like that, but whenever we'd come home, when everybody come home from college, we'd come home, we'd say hi to Greedo, and he'd hang out with us in the kitchen and do all that. But yeah, so it would either be Murray the cat, which is not technically our pet, but kind of, or Greedo, the ancient goldfish.
Mm-hmm.
It's fitting that Greedo was your goldfish that lasted a while, right?
Well, I know. And well, ironic too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, lasted a whole lot longer than the actual Greedo.
Right.
Our Greedo never would have shot first.
Right.
So, Jeff, knowing your current situation, you're totally free not to answer this question if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it would have to be my cats.
Yeah.
You know, they're the greatest, cuddliest, sweetest little fur balls. Just so everyone knows what's going on, the transition with having a baby in the house just hasn't been going well. And this weekend we made the decision to find somewhere else for our cats to live, because it's putting a lot of stress and tension in our household for everybody. And I'm not saying that just from the human side of it. I know that the cats are incredibly stressed out as well, and they're starting to get defensive around the baby. They're getting territorial, so they're starting to mark their territory around the house. So I'm spending a lot of time just moving furniture and trying to figure out where it was that they just peed, so I could get it before it stains. And so it sucks because you take in a pet and you want to say it's going to be forever, and just to reach a point where you have to say goodbye to these animals that you love is really tough.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
And so it's been a rough couple of days as we've come to that realization that that's just how it's got to be, so that not only we get peace of mind, but the cats can end up somewhere that they're going to get the attention and love and nurturing that they need, that they're just not able to get in our home right now. Now, depending on where they end up, it might be in a couple years, if we're done having kids, maybe we bring them back once our kids are old enough to understand how to interact with them and not stress them out, but nurture them and pet them and play with them. But so that's my answer. It's my wonderful, incredible, cuddly little cats that unfortunate timing wise that this was the question that came up for this movie this week. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Sorry about that, man. Hang in there, all right? Stay the course there with that, buddy.
Yeah, we're trying. It's we just keep telling ourselves it's what's best for all parties involved. And again, I talked to some other people and telling me how selfish I was and how it's not fair to do that to the cats, but really, I think it's best for all of us, including them.
Mm-hmm.
It's right now I have to keep them locked in a room on a different floor of the house, and that's not what I want for them.
No,
that's not what they need. How can I continue to be a pet owner if the definition of owning a pet is keeping your animals locked up and you don't get to interact with them?
No, and it's the stress of having to clean up that whole thing. Man, look, I don't want to get you into hot water. I don't know who was telling you what, if it's family or in-laws or what the heck, but it sounds like they just need to cut out and mind their own business. They're calling you names when it's an that I don't know. Whoever the heck told you that, I just flat out disagree with that. The truth. I think I'm sorry that you're having to deal with that, man. That is not easy. And to have to make the right decision when it's the hard one, that's rough. That's rough. I'm really sorry to hear that, Jeff.
I appreciate that.
Have you had any luck finding a new home?
Maybe.
Oh, well, that's good.
We're hoping that one of Katie's relatives who lives nearby is going to be able to take
right
them.
on.
Yeah.
At least for a little bit while we
sure.
If we still need to look at something more permanent, but if we can just get them out of our house so they can get somewhere where they can get comfortable and get attention.
Yeah.
That'd be the first step in the right direction for them. And then, like I said, you never know. In a few years, maybe we reintroduce them back into our house. I don't know. I have no idea how all that's going to play out. But so the hope is we're waiting to hear whether or not that's going to work out.
Well, good luck with that. That's
Thank you.
a tough decision, and it's hard all around. And we have a family friend it's not with a child, it's actually with the two cats don't get along, and they're having real trouble rehoming the one, which is too bad because he's a cool cat.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, do you have a memorable best pet you've had?
Well, I think the best pet I had was the final family dog while I was still living there. was a cockapoo.
Yeah.
His name was Rascal. We named him Rascal because of the ball turret gunner in the Memphis Belle. I was big into that. I was big into that. But yeah, typical, right? I was big into that movie, and we got the dog, and his predecessor, actually, you know, I don't want this to become the Bleeding Heart podcast here, but predecessor was Buttons, another cockapoo, and he took off, ran out of the house, and he got clipped by a truck. And that was that was dark days, let me tell you. You know, and you guys all understand that, and so, you know, we kind of regrouped there as a family, and you know, it was just shattering, you know. And I was in 8th grade, and my siblings were younger, and all that. We regrouped, and we said, you know what, we do want a dog, and we went out and picked out Rascal, and we were kind of looking around, and he was sitting in a cage. Well, in a cage, you know. We were at the, I don't know what the heck you call it, the pound, the dog shop, you know, wherever it is you go, your pet store or whatever it was. Anyways, there were all these dogs, and they were all sitting there, and, you know, with the big eyes that, you know, just kind of basically, if they could have the Norman Rockwell thing with the sign hanging off, please take me home, you know, all the dogs would have that. And we get to Rascal, and all of a sudden he looked at us, and his eyes just like opened up wide, and he started like Tasmanian deviling it around his cage, just running in circles, tearing things up, freaking out, going crazy. And it was like, that's our dog. That's what we need. And he was a rascal. I mean, he was just a ton of fun. Man, you talk about an animal that could pick up on your emotions. It was like, there were times that, I don't know, something happened. My cousin came over to dog sit, and she was watching a sad movie, and she starts crying, and he jumps up and starts licking at the tears, and he comes and he'll cuddle with you. And if the family's laughing and joking, he'd want to come in the house and see what was happening. There were a couple of times that he lifted his leg on the wrong thing in the house, and boy, he knew he was in trouble, and boy, he would go slinking out of the room like nobody's business. He would nose his way into the bathroom. Somehow he could knock the door off the latch so he could get into the bathroom. And if you're sitting on the can, he'd come walking in, and he'd fix you with this look that, I mean, you talk about, I'm saying this now, and it sounds like it's right out of a movie. And before you know it, he'd run up, grab the toilet paper, and run out of the room, and like unwrap the entire spool of toilet paper. And it was just like, and then he'd run around the house, and he'd do this like, and he'd just run around the house. And like, I don't know why, like, I'm just saying this stuff, and it sounds like it's out of a movie. Anyways, he was a very fun dog, and he lived to be, man, I want to say he lived to be about 15 or 16 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, he was really, I mean, you figure I got him when I was in 8th grade, and I was all the way up to working at Hawthorne by the time he passed. So I mean, that was a big chunk of life that he that he witnessed. I mean, you know, all the way up through marriage and jobs and college and all that. And so he was a pretty awesome pet, and yeah, I miss him. He was a fun dog and a great addition to the family. So that would be my memory.
Nice. All right, number 4. What is your favorite dog in a movie or TV show? And I had a tough time with this one because I made a little list, and then I had trouble narrowing it down.
So I have always loved Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey. And unfortunately, I want to pick both dogs from that movie. But yeah, I'm trying to remember the names of the dogs now. I can picture the voices of the characters, but that doesn't really help. So I'm looking them up right now. Chance and Shadow are the two dogs. Yeah, that's good stuff.
You know what? Maybe I'll just be that guy and say Brian from Family Guy.
There you go.
Because all the other dogs are just in movies and stuff. I mean, I can't. How can you, like, you know, the dog in Mad Max, or the dog in Lethal Weapon 2, or in Lethal Weapon 3, or, you know, I mean, they're all just such great. Yeah, I don't know. Benji, you remember those movies?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's mine.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'll cede that. I'll cede my time to you. But yeah, I don't know. They're just, they're also phenomenal. You know, when they bring those pets in. So I'll just say Brian.
You writing your novel, Brian? You working on some little creative writing there? You still working on your novel? Yeah, mine. I made a list of dogs, and when I went through my list, I think Benji is probably going to be my favorite of the TV or movie dogs. We watched those movies so much growing up as kids. That was another one that we must have recorded all of those whenever they were on TV. So we had, we must have had nearly every Benji movie that existed, including I think Benji wasn't he in a movie with Chevy Chase called that like Oh Heavenly Dog or something like that?
I have no idea.
Feel like he was. Yeah. So I'd go with Benji. I mean, my short list, I had 5 that I listed. One was Ambrosius from Labyrinth. Benji, the Shaggy dog, like the original old black and white Shaggy dog.
Yeah, the Shaggy dog stuff. That was on my list.
Was it on yours? Yeah. I had Fred the Hound from Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, good one.
And I had Porthos from Enterprise just because he's a beagle.
Yeah, Porthos is.
But I also love, that's one of my favorite lines from the 2009 Star Trek movie is when they talk about
Admiral Archer's Beagle.
Admiral Archer's Beagle, that's why I'm on this outpost, because I tried to beam Admiral Archer's Beagle and, well, you know how it turned out because I'm here. Yeah. So that was my short list of 5. And from those, when I narrowed everything down, because growing up, we used to watch the Shaggy Dog a lot. The original
was on all the time.
All the time. Yeah. So I don't know if we had a copy or if we just watched it every time it came on TV, but
I think it was one of those that got replayed on the Wonderful World of Disney a lot or something, because you're right. It was on all the time.
Yeah.
This question was a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Okay.
I think, like the rest of yous, I have a list. I'd put together a list and try to narrow it down. I remember watching the old reruns of Lassie when I was a kid. So, of course, Lassie's got to be on the list. Benji. Working my way towards my number 1, though, I think I'd have to put Copper from Fox and the Hound on there.
There you go.
It's a good one.
And I'm my number 1 pick, I'm kind of cheats a little. There's a dog named Moose. And this dog has been on both TV and in movies. So it's the dog from My Dog Skip, who has also played Eddie on Frasier.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's my number 1.
Eddie was an awesome dog.
My number 1 dog.
You know what? And that just jogged. Okay, I'm going to bounce back. Flash from Dukes of Hazzard.
There you go.
I don't know how I forgot that. I mean, okay, there's my number 1 right there. I love Flash.
John, what about Crypto?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
See, and once I get going with the list, I just
yeah.
I just had to narrow it down. But Crypto is definitely on there.
I also like the dogs and Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah. You know what? When you say Crypto, I'm actually going to go to one image that I have of Crypto, and I think it was the series. Was it All-Star Superman? They did a 12-issue series called All-Star Superman, and it was kind of like I feel like the story was that Superman finds out that he's dying, going through and doing all these. You don't find out till later, but he's going through and doing all these different things. And one of the covers of that series is him, and I forget where he's sitting. I don't know if they're sitting on a cloud or if he's sitting in the Arctic or where it is, but he's like sitting there, and he's got his dog sitting next to him, and I think maybe he's got his hand on the dog's head or on the dog's back or something like that. It's just a real cute image, just a real sweet image of Superman and his dog. And so I mean, if Crypto's on my list, I immediately think of that image from the cover of that comic.
I need to look this up because I think I know what you're talking about.
I have. If I wanted to rip the headphones off my head, I'm like 20 feet away from all of my thousands of comic books that are right here. But
you said it was a cover for All-Star Superman?
I think so. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something different.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on All-Star.
Well, so here's the one. Okay, so the All-Star Superman cover that I'm thinking of, maybe, you know what, maybe it's Superman, because I think it might have been the same cover artist. There was a series also called Superman for All Seasons.
For All Seasons?
Yeah. And maybe it was one of those covers, but that's what I immediately think of. There's some image of Superman just like sitting with Krypto, and it's from one of those comics, but I'm not sure. But there is one of the other like really almost kind of sad images, but very sweet images, is one of the All-Star Superman covers. Okay, I just found it. Number 6 is you've got Superman standing in front of his dad's grave, in front of Jonathan Kent's grave, and Krypto is just sitting there right next to him, just looking up at him, just like, you know, as animals do. It's like, I know you're sad. I'm just going to be here with you.
For All-Star?
Yeah. All-Star Superman number 6. That's one of the covers for it. Oh, see, the All-Star Superman, I'm looking at it right now. That's not the cover I thought it was. For All-Star Superman number 1, it's got Superman sitting on a cloud. I was totally convinced that Krypto was on that picture. So I must
right. Yeah, because that's what I was envisioning. I was picturing number 1.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember seeing Krypto on there.
And I was totally convinced that Krypto was on that cover, but I guess not. But there's been a few other comics where it's just, because sometimes I think they don't know how to use Krypto in the comics.
Well, yeah.
So, but there have been times where it just, when you see a moment of him, you know, the two of them just having fun, like somebody, like a normal human, the way they'd play with their dog.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they do images like that. Oh, no. Here it is. It's it's from inside one of the issues of All-Star Superman, and it's a picture of Superman and Krypto sitting on the moon at the edge of a crater and looking at the Earth. That's what I was thinking of. I don't know what number it's from, but it's from All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Holy crap. That's it.
Yeah. But yeah. No, Krypto's a good boy too.
I would love to get that image blown up and framed.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
My goodness.
All right. Did we all give our favorite dogs? I think we did.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. So question number 5, it has the word dog in it, but obviously it has nothing to do with this movie or anything else. Number 5, where is the best place to get a hot dog in the Chicagoland area? And I'm going to go first, because I will admit that I've lived in the Chicago area for well on over 20 years now.
Are you going to say just go to Comiskey Park and wear a Cubs hat? Is that?
No, that's not what I'm going to say. I would never say that ever again, and I don't know that I'll go there ever again. But unless maybe the Cubs are playing them. No, I am kind of embarrassed to say that I know that there are all these amazing places to go get a hot dog in the city of Chicago, and I have not been to a single one of them. So my answer is limited to the places that I tend to go to most, and that would either be Portillo's, because they do have a decent hot dog, or there's a place that we went for John's birthday one year. We were going to go to the planetarium in the city, and we stopped partway through. I think it's in Skokie. There's a place called Poochie's.
Mm-hmm.
And they have pretty good hot dogs. They've got the neon green relish, as you should have,
the correct way. Yeah,
the correct way. And they have a halfway decent hot dog. So I do like their hot dogs there. And I've been there actually once before when I was visiting a school in Skokie for something else. I stopped off there. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go get a hot dog at Poochie's, because I remember that. So I will say that's my only answer I've got, only because I have not been to a lot of the other more famous hot dog spots in the city. So I'm hoping one of you has, and you have a good place that you can recommend.
Well, all right. Gee, imagine that. Hot dog places. Fat guy knows. So
right there with you, brother.
I figure I'm in good company here.
I can't wait to see which ones you come up with, because I bet we got them covered.
But I've got a couple.
As do I.
I think we can all be in agreement. Portillo's is good.
Yeah, they're good.
But outside of Portillo's, number 3 would be Fratello's.
Very good. Up this way.
Number 2 would be Parky's in Forest Park on Harlem Avenue.
Yes, down by my sister-in-law. Quite good.
And number 1 would have to be Gene and Jude's.
Gene and Jude's.
Done. There you go.
Very good. Can't forget Superdog. Even the one in Wheeling, I think, is on par with the downtown one.
Yeah, Superdog's okay.
I can't even call it downtown, North Side. And then my I'm not sure it's the best one, but my special place in my heart hot dog is Mustard's Last Stand in Evanston. Right there next to the stadium. at Northwestern.
I've never been there.
Oh, so good.
I saw that one. I found a website that listed those like the 24 best places to get a hot dog in Chicago, and that was one of them.
Mustard's is fantastic.
Okay.
There's another good one in Evanston, not too far away, more downtown Evanston, called Edzo's.
Mm-hmm.
They're more known for their fry menu, and I say fry menu because it is a whole menu of different ways to have French fries.
Wow.
Which is fan-freaking-tastic. Let me just set that up.
Okay,
but yeah,
we've lost that now.
Mustard's has a special place in my heart and always will.
Okay. So yeah, Mustard's on this website. I found Mustard's out of the 24 hot dog places ranked in the city of Chicago or the Chicago area. Mustard's is number 14 on their
right
list.
On, go Mustard's.
What do they have in their top 3?
Their top 3. Let me scroll down
Gene
here.
and Jude's has to be top 5 on that list.
Okay, so so we'll do top 5. Wiener Circle.
Yep.
Number 5.
Solid.
Murphy's Red Hots is number 4.
I have not had that.
It says Belmont Avenue in Lakeview. Number 3 is Fatso's Last Stand in Ukrainian Village. Number 2 is Fat Johnny's, and number 1 is Gene and Jude's.
Yeah, I've only been to 2 of those top 5.
Okay. So it sounds like what's going to happen here is like over the summer or some other time, we need a 30-something podcast field trip to hit up all these places.
Yes.
All right.
But you can't really do them all in one day. We'll be dead.
Challenge accepted.
All right.
I don't know if you intended that as a challenge, but
I'm out.
challenge accepted. Because by then the Biggest Loser competition at work will be over, and
fair enough.
We can move on to the biggest winner.
It'll be time to gain back everything you lost.
Mm-hmm. Right. We'll be emphasizing the biggest and not the loser. All right. Pat, did you weigh in? Did you have any spots?
You know what? I don't think I can add anything to that because Gene and Jude's is like the number 1 place, and my in-laws always talked about it, and they took Tammy's like, oh yeah, we would go there as kids because my in-laws I think went to Lane, or my father-in-law went to Lane Tech, and my mother-in-law school right down near there, or maybe they both were at Lane. I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, they both talked about Gene and Jude, and that was something they always talked about. And then it was later on we finally went there, and you know, it's just the way they've always done it, and the fries are just like a chop a potato right into the fry, and and wrap the hot dog up in it, and they don't serve any ketchup in the McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
Like the parking lot will sell you ketchup packets because everyone would go over there and ask them, so I'd have to say Gene and Jude's is the top. The rest, I just don't know, all the ins and outs of the hot dog places. But I'll tell you, there's a book that maybe is common reading. But have you ever heard the book Never Put Ketchup on a Hot Dog?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah.
Which is a great book because, our friend Roach, she'll come at you like eyes blazing and fists coming if she sees you put ketchup on a hot dog. And,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's like sacrilege. And my father-in-law feels the same way. And so the two of them, we had a party at the house, for the kids and stuff. And they were both there and they ganged up on me. And Roach actually got me the book, Never Put Ketchup on a Hot Dog. And it's a fun book because you go through and there's stuff that they got hot dog places, South Side, West Side, North Side, suburbs, the whole thing. And so that's a fun read. And so there's a lot of places around. But I'd say Gene and Jude's. I'll tell you something else. If you want hot dogs that you don't go out to buy, but if you want to bring them back to the house, we discovered at Costco they are quarter-pound hot dogs.
They are beefy.
Oh, have you seen those things?
Yes.
Yes, you get a hot dog and a drink for $1.50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, you can buy like a frozen package of them and bring them, and it's like these things are ginormous, and everybody, like even the hardcore hot dog eaters, are just like, where did you find these things? So the next time you're throwing and they're good. But so the next time
I can't remember who they use. For the longest time, Sam's Club was Nathan's hot dogs, and they were fantastic.
Yeah. So anyways, the next time you're having a barbecue and you can get to Costco and maybe they carry a version of it at all the those type of stores. But I would say check those out because those are like, and people are just shocked because they're just like, where do you what the heck? And you need like 2 hot dog buns to like make it happen. I mean, it's just
nice.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's the best part of going to Costco.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
$1.50 on the way out.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, this, on Saturday, had to go in for something. That's not the day to go to Costco at all.
No.
anybody's life anywhere. So I think that's going to do it for our 5 questions, and that's going to do it for Turner and Hooch. So thank you for joining us very, very quickly. Our next several episodes. Now, one of these may be thrown in there in a slightly different order. I don't know when we're going to get around to recording it, but our
Marvel,
next
baby.
few episodes, I know Captain Marvel coming out this weekend. So depending on when I'm able to go see it, you know, we'll see what we can get that one out. And if you guys have a chance to see it too, if you guys don't have a chance to see it, I am going to try to take at least Nora to go see it with me. So if you guys don't get a chance to see it, maybe Nora and I will just do a quick episode on it, but we'll do Captain Marvel sometime in the month of March. We'll throw that episode in there. Otherwise, our next one's coming up will be Glory and the War of the Roses. And then if you really want to get ahead to our April movies, we've got My Left Foot, UHF, Dead Poet Society, and Driving Miss Daisy. So that's all the stuff we've got coming out over the course of the next couple months. And then I think we've started to kind of nail down our May movies, which is going to be movies that we may have missed in the course of doing the show. If there's any movie that we haven't covered that we feel like we really got to talk about that before we get out of the 80s, we're kind of using the month of May to do that. So I think we've mostly kind of nailed down, or some of us have nailed down our selections for what that will be. And that could be any movie from 1980 to 1989 that we haven't talked about on the show yet. So
John stopped by my classroom and I showed him the list of movies I was working with, and he saw my struggle.
I also had this struggle too. Your list probably was mostly the same as my list too.
Yeah.
Struggle is
so
real.
we were able to struggle together.
Is real.
So as soon as we have those nailed down, we will share those out. And if you that are listening, if you have any movies that we have not covered yet, and you've got some suggestions you'd like to send in, please feel free and do that. You can do that through our website, do it through Twitter. We've got a voicemail line that you can call in. Numbers
Jason
on
Colvin, we're talking to you.
Right. Well, yes, we have several listeners that interact with us regularly. So if you've got any movies that we've missed so far, because I did catch up with a few that he had suggested before, I did catch up with like Stakeout and Midnight Run and some of those other movies. So, and they were very good. So yes, feel free to send us some. I was told to skip the sequel though.
Oh, see, I think the sequel's fun. It's a
okay.
totally different style of movie, though. You can't go in expecting the same thing.
Okay.
They added Rosie O'Donnell, for crying out loud. It's not the same movie.
Okay.
But I think they did a fun job with it. But it's definitely taking the movie that did well and then making a family-friendly sequel.
Okay.
But I've always thought it was really funny.
Okay. And actually, the funny thing is when Jason, the listener, had messaged me about it, asked if I had watched it yet. I said yes. I said I haven't had a chance to watch the sequel yet, and he said and he made some comment about it, and then he texted back and said, and the sequel sucked. And I was like, you know what? Actually, if I was crazy and wanted to start a totally different podcast, I think that's what I might name it.
Oh,
and it'd be a podcast just where you go through and watch sequels that did not turn out as well as the original.
That would actually be a really cool premise. It'd be sort of
kind of fun.
A twist on how did this get made with a
right.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Who was drunk enough to greenlight this thing?
Right? Who was now you know what it is? Who was doing their best Scrooge McDuck and swimming through the money and wanted more?
Well, that too.
Because let's be honest, at least 80% of the world's sequels get made because the first one made money and they said, how can we make more?
Right. Or Rosie O'Donnell wants to be in a movie.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this time on the 30-something movie podcast. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
And we will see you all next time. Again, check out those movies that we listed before if you want to watch them ahead of time before we have the show. But thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here next time for either Glory, War of the Roses, Captain Marvel, depending on what order we end up doing those in. But be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we'll see you back here next time.
No barking, no growling, no eating of the house plants.
No dogs allowed on the second floor at all. No playing of my records. No sniffing of crotches. No drinking out of the toilet. You will not beg for food. No ball playing in the house. No chewing or slobbering of my shoes. You will not hide from me. This is not your room.